have a big stack of books in my hands. We are doing a reading wrap up. We're gonna go over every single book I read in June. I read a total of 5 books. I had 2 5-star reads and I had 0 DNFs, which honestly says a lot. I am so happy about this whole reading month because I did so good. But this month, it's safe to say that I'm now out of my book slump. Thank you, universe, for doing that for me. Now I get to talk about 5 summary reads that I read this month. I am so excited for this. Let's go over them. The first one I read is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I wanted to talk about this one first because I loved this one so much. I thought we should just start on a high note. This is obviously a 5-star read if you can't tell by my expression. I loved both of the characters in this book so much with all of my heart. I think I just loved them equally, and there's not very many times in books where I like both the characters so much. I normally dislike one of the characters is what I'm trying to say, but I liked both of them so much in this book. Our main characters are Emma and Justin, and Emma is kind of more reserved, just doesn't really speak everything she says. She's kind of more in her head about things, I would say, and Justin is very I guess he does think things through, but he says everything. He says everything really that comes to mind, and he's not afraid to say how he feels, and I loved both of the characters so much. I related to them both on that level, which was weird because they're so opposite. I also thought that this whole storyline was kind of cutesy and very Hallmark-esque, very cheesy. Emma and Justin meet through this Reddit thread that Justin posts. Justin posts about how every time he has a girlfriend, once they break up, then that girlfriend goes on to find the love of their life, and how it's just this endless cycle. Then Emma replies on the Reddit thread and is basically yeah, I'm the same way. And then they decide to fake date so that they can kind of break this curse. I like the fake dating trope because it just makes the characters have so many more thoughts happening in their brain that they're not saying out loud. But I just like reading about how characters process certain things, and I think that the fake dating trope really allows that to happen easily. So what else was I gonna say about this? So Emma is a traveling nurse, and Justin, I don't remember what his job was, but I know that he has to take care of his 3 siblings now because his dad passed away a few years ago, I think, or a few months ago, something like that, and then his mom ends up having to go to jail, so he ends up having custody over his 3 siblings, so he has to take care of them. Basically what I'm saying is that he has to stay at home and stay in one spot, and Emma is a traveling nurse, so she has to travel, so obviously their lives just wouldn't really work. Loved the way these characters were. I even liked the 3rd act breakup, and that's saying something because every rom-com I've ever read has a 3rd act breakup, so that's not a spoiler at all. I feel it's just part of a rom-com, honestly, but I thought that the 3rd act breakup in this book kind of just made a lot of sense, and I didn't hate it. 5 stars. Love this book. I think about these characters all the time, and I think you should go read it because it is so good. And it was a very anticipated new release for me, so I'm glad that it panned out the way that I was hoping it would. Next book is The Catch by Amy Leah. You guys know, if you watched my reading summer books for a week, I think that's what the video was titled. If you watched that video, you would know about my feelings about kind of all of these books. Not really. A few of these books weren't in that video, but this one was, and you guys probably already heard me rant about this book before, so I'm gonna keep it short and sweet for this one this time. 3 stars. I didn't love this book. I didn't love the characters. I didn't love the plot. This was another fake dating trope book, but it felt like that trope was thrown out the window the second it appeared. It was really weird. I don't even remember these characters' names, which says a lot about how much I enjoyed this book. This book follows Melanie and Evan, and Melanie is a fashion influencer. She ends up in this rural little fishing village, staying at this motel/hotel that Evan runs and owns. I don't know, it was also a grumpy ex-sunshine trope, and I'm not the hugest fan of that. Sometimes the grumpy person in that trope just comes off as rude, and I don't love that. So when you read the back of it, it says after a boating accident lands Evan unconscious in the hospital, Mel is mistaken for his fiance by his welcoming yet quirky family. It's yes, that did happen, but it felt at any given second they just threw that out the window and kind of acted that whole plot line didn't exist whenever it was convenient for the author to not have it exist. It was okay while I was reading it, but 3 stars. I didn't love the way this book was written. I'll just leave it at that. Oh my god, these cushions are falling as I'm speaking to you. Next book is The Summer Book Rules by K.L. Walther. I liked this one a lot more than I thought that I would. Actually, that's a lie. I think I thought this one would be a 5-star. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch that summer reading video to figure that out. Just remember that my thoughts about this book weren't correct. Like, my thoughts going into this book did not pan out the same way that it did once I finished reading it. I gave this book a 4 stars. This follows Meredith, who basically lost her sister Claire. I think it was 18 months ago. There's this like summer wedding happening that she's attending, and her whole family plays this game of assassin. It's very summer-esque, just all the summer vibes all around, and her family's playing this game of assassin that her sister used to love so much, so she's kind of like trying to win for her sister. I gave this a 4 stars. It just didn't give me the 5-star feeling, but I did like this book a lot. I think that I just didn't like the way this book dealt with like the whole grief aspect. I don't think it was dealt with heavy enough. I felt like that was a big part of like the character Melanie as a whole, like, was this grief she was dealing with, and I felt like it wasn't. I felt like the grief was kind of sometimes thrown out the window, and it was kind of almost forgotten that Melanie dealt with this grief. I still do very much recommend this book. It's very YA though, so be ready for that if you go into it. I forgot that it was a YA book when I was reading it, and that's another reason I gave it a 4 stars. Does that make sense? I don't know, but 4 stars. This next book, I'm gonna need to go grab my phone to read you some quotes, but it's The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Oh my god, 5 stars, 6 stars, 7 star. Infinite amount of stars for this book. This book never bored me for a second. I read this book in quite literally 2 days, rushing through this book because it was so good, but I didn't want it to end. This book follows Clementine West, and she lost her aunt, and now she's living in her aunt's apartment. But the funny thing about her aunt's apartment is that it actually transports in time 7 years in the past. She meets this guy who was staying there named, why do I forget his name? She meets James, and kind of the whole time he's helping her through like this grief that's occurring, and it's a really cute romance, but it's a lot more than that because it's like, it also felt kind of literary fiction-esque. Please hold. Tyler, if you don't leave me alone. Oh, can you pass me my phone? Really? Put it back on your headphones. I'm trying to film my wholesome book review. I'll wait. Don't worry, I'll just wait here.
In case you didn't hear.
Tyler, we all heard it. 7 p.m. Friday, it's 95 degrees. Oh my god, Tyler. Sorry about that brief intermission. I'm filming in my living room, so it's kind of like my siblings have free will to come in here at any second. I screenshotted so many things from this book. Shall I read a few? Do you care to sit and listen to me read a few quotes from this book? Because I want to do everything in my power to convince you to read this book, and it's kind of hurting me a little bit knowing that this is the last time that I have like a valid excuse to be talking about this book. Like, trust, I will be finding any excuse in the future to bring up this book in any vlog and any book video ever made by me, but this is my only like valid excuse to be talking about it. So first quote I want to read is a very short one, but it really like hit me. I don't know, I feel like everyone should hear this one. It says, "You never commit a mundane moment to memory, thinking it'll be the last time you'll hear their voice or see their smile or smell their perfume. Your head never remembers the things your heart wants to in hindsight." Oh, gut punch. Gut punch. This is a cute quote, not about grief this time. This one's actually like a cute one. It says, "Whenever I took a closer look at him, he was disorienting in the kind of way kaleidoscopes were, constantly moving and shifting, full of colors and shapes that shouldn't have gone together, but did in a way that made it perfect." This author can write. Okay, we need to sit up for these ones because these are the heavy hitting ones, okay? This one says, "The thing no one tells you, the thing you have to find out on your own through first-hand experience is that there's never an easy way to talk about suicide. There never was, there never will be. If ever someone asked, I'd tell them the truth, that my aunt was amazing, that she lived widely, that she had the most infectious laugh, that she knew 4 different languages and had a passport cluttered with so many stamps from different countries that it'd make any world traveler green with envy, and that she had a monster over her shoulder that she didn't let anyone else see. And in turn, that monster didn't let her see all the things she would miss, the birthdays, the anniversaries, the sunsets, the bodega on the corner that had turned into that shiplap furniture store. The monster closed her eyes to all the pain she would give the people she left. Terrible weight of missing her and trying not to blame her all in the same breath. And then you start blaming yourself. Could you have done something? Then that voice that finally broke through. If you loved them more, if you paid more attention, if you were better, if you only asked, if you even knew to ask, if you could just read between the lines, and if. There's no easy way to talk about suicide. Sometimes the people you love don't leave you with goodbyes. They just leave." I mean, what? Ashley Poston's writing is so beyond amazing. My ice machine. Ashley Poston's writing is so beyond amazing. I can't begin to explain it. It made me cry so many times, and it also made me like smile and like have that giddy feeling. I was like, whoa, this is why I like reading. Another quote says, and then this woman whom I didn't know wrapped her arms around me and pressed me tightly into her burnt orange blouse, and it felt like permission. The kind I hadn't let myself have for 6 months. The kind of permission that I'd been waiting for as I sat alone in my aunt's apartment, and the grief welled up so high it felt suffocating. Permission I thought I'd given myself, but it hadn't been permission to cry. It had been a command to be strong, to be okay. I told myself over and over I had to be okay. And finally, someone gave me permission to come undone. This is a quote I related to. My parents, who I said yes to because I loved and didn't want to disappoint them, and I feared I would anyway. That's too real. I'll read a long one, but this is the last one I'll read, okay? I promise. It says, I missed her every day. I missed her in ways I didn't yet understand, in ways I wouldn't find out for years to come. I missed her with this deep sort of regret, even though there was nothing I could have done. Never wanted anyone to see the monster on her shoulders, so she hid it. And when she finally took the monster's hand, it broke our hearts. It would keep breaking our hearts, everyone who knew her, over and over and over again. It was the kind of pain that didn't exist to someday be healed by pretty words and good memories. It was the kind of pain that existed because, once upon a time, so did she. And I carried that pain and that love and that terrible, terrible day with me. I got comfortable with it. I walked with it. Whoa. Sometimes the people you love left you halfway through a story. Sometimes they left you without a goodbye. And sometimes they stayed around in little ways. In the memory of a musical, in the smell of their perfume, in the sound of the rain, and the itch for adventure, and the yearning for that liminal space between one airport terminal and the next. I hated her for leaving, and I loved her for staying as long as she could. And I would never wish this pain on anyone. I walked through her apartment one last time, remembering all the nights I spent on her couch, all the mornings she cooked me eggs, the fingernail polish on the doorframe to mark my height, the books in her study. I ran my fingers over the spines full of faces we met and stories we'd heard. All the people, all of the experiences, all of the memories that loved me into being. I'm about to cry again. I'm only reading quotes from this book. I'm not reading this whole book again. It's just, this book like put me through so much pain, but also like healed me. It put a lot of the things that feel into actual words. I did say that was the last quote I'm gonna read, but I'm gonna read one more because I saw it and now I have to read it. This one says, maybe she felt some sort of kinship with a man who for his entire adult life warred with his own monsters in his head. Vincent van Gogh's last words were, after his brother comforted him by telling him he would get better from the self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest. The sadness will last forever. It wasn't a lie. There was sadness and there was despair and there was pain, but there was also laughter and joy and relief. There was never grief without love or love without grief, and I chose to think that my aunt lived because of them. Because of all the light and love and joy that she found in the shadows of everything that plagued her, she lived because she loved, and she lived because she was loved. And what a lovely lifetime she gave us. All I'm gonna say is go read this book. Infinite amount of stars for this one, but you know, we're restricted to the 5-star category, so 5 stars. Loved this book. Literally ever since I finished this book, I have not been able to stop thinking about it. I hope that this book lives forever in my head. I hope I never forget about it. Dare I say, my new favorite book of all time. Dare I say it. Okay, moving on to a super fun book. I'm so glad that I reread this book. It's Beach Read by Emily Henry. You guys know, I've read this book before. I never shut up about this book. This book is still a 5-star book for me, so let's go ahead and throw that rating up on the screen. I feel like we all knew this rating wasn't going to change, so we're not shocked, but I did want to talk a little bit about this book again because I feel like it hit me more than it did the first time I read it, and I didn't know that that was possible. This book follows Gus and January, and first of all, let me just say, I love them so much. They are literal polar opposites, and I also loved the setting of this book so much. I fear Gus may be the love of my life. I fear January is literally everything to me. Basically, they're both writers, and the difference between them is like January writes like really happy rom-com books, and Gus writes like darker books, like sadder books, more gut-wrenching. Like they end up in these neighboring beach houses, and basically they're both going through like a writing slump, so they team up and they decide, hey, let's try to like break each other out of this writing slump. And January ends up trying to write like the darker books, and Gus ends up trying to write like the happier, lighter books. So they basically both like switch their writing styles, and they end up taking each other on these little like dates so that it makes it easier for like January to write a darker book. Gus is now gonna take her on like darker, I don't know how to explain it, like just not cute fun dates. Like January is trying to help Gus now write like these cute fun rom-coms, so she's gonna take him on like dates that are worthy of cute fun rom-coms. Does that make sense? I don't know, but I love them both so much, and I love this book. I'm so glad I reread it. I'm on like a rereading books kick recently, and I'm not mad about it at all because it's like re-sparking my love for reading. I think at some point I'll end up like annotating and tabbing this book. Wow. Also, this book has gone through quite literally everything. It got wet from the pool, it's breaking, it's bent, it's ripped, it's teared, it's loved. All in all, these 5 books were honestly really good. I had a great reading month and I'm so happy about it. I actually liked all these books, even like The Catch, which I rated 3 stars. Like, I would still recommend that book, and I still do kind of think about it sometimes. I don't know. All in all, a really, really good reading month from me. Obviously, I was really in the summery mood this month because I read all summer rom-coms, but I hope you got some recommendations of books to read. If you do anything at all, read The 7-Year Slip. So good. New favorite book of all time, and I'm so excited about it. So I hope you go read The 7-Year Slip, but honestly, like, any of these books will suffice. I do have something else to show you before you click off. I did want to show you the book that I am currently reading because I started reading this in June. I am filming this video in July, but I did start this book in June, so I thought it was only right that I showed you this book too. I'm reading Arch Enemies. This is the second book in the, I don't know what it's called. Don't know. I'm just gonna say the Lunar Chronicles. Nope. It's just Renegades. This is the second book in the Renegades trilogy. I believe it's a trilogy. I think there's 3 books. I read Renegades last month and I really, really liked it, and honestly gave that book 5 stars. This book, Arch Enemies, I'm only 11 chapters into it, but it's not hitting the same as the first book, so I'm hoping that it picks up. I just wanted to show you guys this because I am currently reading this and I started it in June, so I thought it was only fair for you guys to know that. But yeah, those are all the books that I read in June. I hope you like listening to me talk about all these books. I hope that you stick around for some book content, some vlogs, some fun times. It's just fun vibes over here on this channel, so subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys super soon. Love you.